Hello world, it's a slightly cheeky title that I've put on this video today because this morning, coming up on my recommended videos, someone has posted up a Rega Nd7 in a very high class hi-fi system playing Stravinsky's Firebird Suite. Stravinsky, according to my classical music taste, is not exactly my cup of bovril, but I thought I'd sit and I'd appraise this anyway. First of all, because I was just loafing around in bed, I woke up insanely early, has to be said. And I played this thing on my iPad and I thought, yeah, that sounds really, really good. And then I got the idea that perhaps I would do an appraisal of it on my main system and talk about it with you lot. Okay, except that there is a great big hole in that. Now, I have spent a lot of my time on my channel posting up demonstrations of various record players that I've used in the past or whatever, or various equipment. Comment whatever you like, but just be aware that I know just posting a video on YouTube is not going to accurately represent the sound quality of something. For one thing, the equipment that was used to record this Firebird Suite is not my own. It wasn't recorded in a room that is anything like my own. In fact, apart from it not being my own equipment, it's completely different equipment. It's a completely different system altogether. So all of that then gets recorded onto a computer, into Audacity. Then it goes onto YouTube, it gets compressed on YouTube, and then it comes out of whatever you're listening to it on. On the other hand, over the last few years, hi-fi dealers have been increasingly reluctant to show you the merits of hi-fi cartridges, one after the other, in A/B listening tests. If you went into a hi-fi shop and said, look, you've got that Lin amplifier there, and you've got this name amplifier here, and you've got this Rega one here, and I'm in the market to buy an amplifier, which one shall I buy? They will be more than happy to swap out various different amps, let you listen at your leisure until you make a decision. They're less likely to do that with cartridges. In a more competitive world, such as maybe 40 years ago, 50 years ago maybe, where record players were everywhere and they were all people used, then perhaps there might have been the case for dealers to swap things in and out for you, or to swap cartridges in and out for you. They're not going to do that here. Going to a hi-fi shop and listening to a cartridge on a record player that maybe isn't your record player, they will do their best. Hi-fi dealers are nice people in general. They'll do their best. They'll try and get it to be as much like the system that you have as possible, but it still is not going to be the same. And because they do seem to be less likely to want to swap things in and out for you for cartridges, listening to one on YouTube through a high quality system is possibly as good an indicator as any as to whether or not you think you are going to enjoy that cartridge. By all means, if you liked what you hear on YouTube, then go and try it out for yourself in the flesh. But do not take that YouTube video as an indicator of exactly how much something, of how accurate something's going to sound like. I will give you a rundown of this guy's system, whether it is a guy or not, or whether it's a shop or not, or a woman or not. I don't know who they are, and I can't even pronounce their name because I think it's a Polish or Eastern European channel. So obviously they were using the Rega Nd7. Vitally important, if you pardon the pun, because it's a vital tip that they're using on the Nd7. But it's hugely important because that is the tip that touches the record and produces those little electronic sound waves that are being sent to everything else. So it's absolutely vital, again, that that bit is right. So he's using a Jelco 750L tone arm. That's a name that I haven't heard for a long, long time. The Gelco 750L arm is a 12-inch arm. Normally, tone arms are 9 inches long. I have to say it. Giggity. You do get some very esoteric, high-end tone arms that are 12 inches long. They do have their critics. They might not be as rigid as their 9-inch equivalent. I wonder, I mean, everybody always says keep your hi-fi leads short. If you've got like 3 inches of extra cable going through your tone arm, then surely that isn't keeping your leads as short as you possibly can. It's also one of those with a detachable head shell. And yes, I mean, Rega's tone arms are nowhere in the same ballpark as a Gelco tone arm. However, they do argue that keeping the head shell and the actual tube as a one-piece fitting reduces unwanted vibrations. The deck that they were using was a Dr. Fikert's Firebird. Now, I saw a quick review of this by Michael Fremer from Stereophile from 2016, $12,500 for that record player. It can take two, not one, two 12-inch tone arms. Perhaps I do know why you would. It's for that same reason that I want 2 record players. I want one with a mono cartridge on it to play my mono records on, and a better one to play my stereo ones on. So yes, I can see why perhaps you would want a deck that could accommodate 2 tone arms, but it's probably just added an absolute fortune to the price. It's got not 1 but 3 motors on it. One is a master motor, the other 2 are slave motors to that master motor. He was using an EAR 834P phono moving magnet stroke moving coil phono stage. I saw one going for £1,250 used on eBay, and then he used a Korg DS DAC 10R to make the recording into his computer. So it's a very, very high-end system there. And onto that, plopped at one end, on the end of the tone arm, a 12-inch tone arm on a nearly £13,000 deck, he's put the lowly Rega Nd7 moving magnet cartridge worth £450. Believe you me, you can get moving coil cartridges that are the same price as that deck. And you would have wondered why would anybody, even if they wanted to try out a Rega cartridge, why would they be thinking, right, well, I'm just going to take the top moving magnet cartridge. I'm not even going to take the moderately top now, a Theta 3. So the point that I'm making here is that in that system, the Rega Nd7 cartridge is way out of its league. However, I'll put the link in the description. If you listen to that Firebird Suite, and I have to say it's scene 2, by the way, scene 2 of the Firebird Suite. As I say, Stravinsky is not someone that I would put on by choice, but I really, really enjoyed listening to it. And I absolutely loved hearing the Rega Nd7 in that system. What I can do is try and pluck out the things that I know are distinctly Rega-like about the presentation. And then perhaps I'll outline ways in which a more posh moving coil cartridge costing many thousands of pounds would improve upon that presentation. Okay, now as I say, it comes with the Nd7 comes with a vital tip, which would be called a micro fine line. It's a professional tip. It will dig deep down into any record and pull out any detail that's there. And because it's a vital tip, it will find its way into parts of a groove that have not been played. The stereo separation on this Firebird Suite was just incredible. And it was incredible in a way that perhaps again defies belief. These Mercury Living Presence recordings, which this Stravinsky album was, they were made round about the 1950s and 60s. Many of them, I can't tell you the exact details of this particular recording, but many of them were made with a 3-track tape machine, the same one or the same type that I told you about when I was discussing Motown and EMI recording methods, in a live hall, and just essentially just brilliant acoustics, brilliant microphone placement, and it's just amazing, absolutely amazing. I've got a few of the Mercury Living Presence recordings. I've got a Dvorak cello concerto. I think it's I can't think of what the name is. What's the one about the Arabian Nights? Yeah, Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition. I've got Khachaturian. Over the years, they've been reprinted, they've been transferred to CD, to SACD, to streaming. This particular pressing was a 1997 pressing. Very, very quiet. The odd click and pop. But what I can tell you, listening to it through my system, my main hi-fi system, is that the timpani, it's been ages since I've seen a Firebird score, but there is a timpani in there that must have been playing at like 3 Ps, like pianissimo sort of thing. Very, 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 very quietly indeed. Just, you know, that if you were doing something else, you would miss it. But if you're sitting and you're concentrating, and then you hear them really, really, really low, and then, you know, the great crescendos and highs and lows, they're all there. It's like a roller coaster. It's layered, it's textured, so that front to back is really impressive. That you can hear where parts of the orchestra are in front and parts of the orchestra are behind. And because of the kind of piece it is, there's a huge amount of swapping over from, you know, stuff on the left to stuff on the right to then zooming round to the centre, and it's really a very animated recording, and that comes across in spades. What doesn't come across in spades is the overall scale of the recording. You do not get the feeling of an orchestra in your room. You get the feeling of a small orchestra in your room. Possibly because I've got a very small room, I've got a sloping ceiling, so top to bottom is not really what I think it could possibly be. As I say, there could be any number of reasons for it, but I'm going to put it at Rega's door, because I don't feel like my Anya should theoretically, as a moving coil with exactly the same design but just with a slightly different tip, my Anya should be able to sort of generate a huge, vast scale, but it doesn't. But that's really the only criticism that I can think about it with, you know, really. You know, it's incredibly realistic. Maybe, you know, perhaps had I been listening to it in real life on my system, I might get a bit more of a suggestion of, here is somebody with beaters playing a glockenspiel or a xylophone, and you can actually hear the knocking on the wood. You could hear it on this video. However, it's like an impression of, not quite as realistic as I've heard on, you know, say from the Anya, from the likes of the Anya, or even the Exact, which has the same tip as the ND7. So, yeah, this is just proof that Rega have manufactured 3 cartridges that can actually punch well above their weight. Should you put an ND7 on a system that costs God knows how many times more? No, you shouldn't, because you are going to start seeing the limitations of that particular piece of equipment compared to the rest of it. As I say, the scale isn't quite there. The feeling of realism in terms of somebody actually knocking on wood, for example, not there. But thrills, texture, layers, beautiful. It really does put up a really good sort of case for itself. I will leave it there, folks. Leave some comments down below. And remember to like, subscribe, share if you dare. Consider leaving a super thanks if you found this informative. And I will see you again very soon in the next one. Bye.